have your home and you can work right out of home as long as you can have connectivity. COVID has really shown us a mirror. COVID has really shown us a lot of possibilities as well. But one of the biggest opportunities that COVID has presented to all of us is that you could actually start moving, in the entire spectrum of work that you do in technology. There's a huge chunk of it which can actually be hived off and which can go to tier 2 cities. Most of you have offices in Hyderabad, most of you have offices in Bangalore and other parts of India. Of course, that's great that you actually continue to support our motherland. But even within the support that you've extended, even within the businesses that you've started in India, I think there's a huge chunk of it that can be done by tier 2 towns. That's exactly what we did in the last 10 years. We actually started looking at physical spaces. We set up physical spaces in Telangana in about 10 different tier 2 towns, which is what Anju was talking about. In Khammam, in Mehboob-Nagar, in Nalgonda, in Siddipet, in Nizamabad, and the list goes on. In about 10 different places, in Adilabad we started and it's almost up and coming. 10 different places, the government has put in money to set up physical infrastructure to the extent of almost 50 to 75,000 square foot of campus. And we also have a very interesting policy where we actually said the first year is rent free, so anybody who wants to come in and set shop will actually have you can hit the ground running. And basically it's a plug and play kind of a facility where you can come in because all the infrastructure is ready. You can come in, plug in your computer and start working. One success story that I would like to share with you. There's a company called NTT Data. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the name. So NTT in India, in Hyderabad, was run by a friend called Sanjeev Deshpande. So one day Sanjeev came to me about, I think post-COVID, 22 or something. We were generally chit-chatting about what can be done, what should be done. So he was saying, the explosive growth of IT sector in Telangana is both a boon and a bane. I said, why? He said, I'm glad that the number of jobs has increased. In 2014, when Telangana was formed, the total number of technology jobs in Hyderabad and Telangana together was hardly 323,000. But in 2023 December, when we left office, that 323,000 almost became 1 million jobs. To be precise, 946,000 jobs. So he said it's good that the industry has grown, number of jobs have been created, people have started looking at Hyderabad with a great deal of interest, etc., etc. But he said it's bad because, you got these large corporations like Google, whose second largest office outside of the US is in Hyderabad. You have a large corporation like Amazon, whose largest campus in the world. By the way, can you tell me where the largest campus of Amazon is? In the world? Hyderabad. In Hyderabad. Those of you who did not know, you should know this. The largest campus of Amazon is not in Seattle. It is actually in Hyderabad. That happened in about 2015-16. Likewise, the largest campus of Meta outside of the US is in Hyderabad. The largest campus of Apple outside of the US is also in Hyderabad. The largest campus of Uber, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Medtronic, and the list goes on, Novartis. All of these guys have moved to Hyderabad between 2014 to 2020. In 6 years flat after the formation of new state of Telangana, all these guys have come and created thousands of jobs. But the downside is, now NTT Data and all the small IT companies, which possibly don't have the same brand leverage, brand image as that of Amazon or Google, etc., have to compete. Have to compete with the likes of Amazon, Google to retain your employees. The employees you worked hard to train, the employees you've invested tons of money in training, you're losing to Google and Amazon. So this was a question Sanjeev was asking me. He said, I'm glad Amazon is here, I'm glad Google is here, I'm glad all these big companies are here, which have created a brilliant ecosystem. They come in with their suppliers, they come in with their partners, vendors, etc. But how do I compete with them? Each of them is paying huge money, and of course there is a lure of working for a big brand. How do I compete? So then we had a heart-to-heart conversation. I asked Sanjeev, I said, why do you have to do all your business in Hyderabad? Because I'm a guy who was born in Karimnagar but raised in Hyderabad for a large part of my life. But I do know that when I moved from Karimnagar, which is where I actually was educated till 3rd and 4th grade, when I moved to Hyderabad, I had a bit of about a 6-month window to adjust, to actually kind of sort of upgrade myself, to talk the lingo of the boys and girls in my school in Hyderabad. Likewise, I know that when a young student, engineering student or otherwise a graduate student, moves from a tier 2 town to a tier 1 town, I know that they have more to prove to themselves and to the rest of the world. So there's more fire in the belly, there's more aggression, there's more passion to do what they would like to do. So I convinced Sanjeev, because Sanjeev is also from a tier 2 town. He's from Adilabad. Adilabad is almost about 300 kilometers from Hyderabad. It's to one corner of Telangana. It's closer to Nagpur than it is to Hyderabad. So I asked Sanjeev, I said, why don't you do something in your own hometown? There are enough and more graduates in Adilabad. Why don't you set up NTT data in Adilabad? He was very hesitant. He said, no, I think the students would rather move to Hyderabad or Bangalore or Pune. I don't think they would be in Adilabad. I said, why don't you try? He said, okay, let me try. And he started with 50 people. He started a small center with 50 people. And 3 years later today, I'm happy to share with you, in Adilabad, NTT subsidiary has grown to 500 people and it's still thriving. John F. Kennedy had said very, very popularly, and that's a quote I keep recollecting and recalling all the time. America, the United States of America, does not have good highways because it is rich. America is rich because it has invested heavily in having good highways and having great infrastructure. There is no substitute, to growth than investing in infrastructure, and I think that is something all state governments in India, the union government in India also has recognized and therefore is bound to invest. My appeal to all of you, I know the challenges that you currently are facing. I know that the service levels are going to go down with the kind of restrictions that are being imposed. I know that your bottom line will possibly suffer the kind of restrictions that are being imposed. I also do know that offshoring might increase because of all the restrictions that are being imposed. I also do know that business will suffer in the short term. Diversity is going to come down in the employee pool. Also, a lot of other possible things that I can't conceptually think of right away might also happen. But therein lies the silver lining. You have something to latch onto back home. And progressive state governments, progressive union governments in India and elsewhere are looking forward to working more closely with you. I do believe that DevOps, I was talking to a couple of my friends last night, most of the programmers are worried that they might lose their jobs. Most of the guys are really worried that upskilling and reskilling might not help them. They're conscious that AI, because I'm sure everybody's watching what Microsoft is doing, what Google is doing, what's happening in the technology world. But every single time we've seen this kind of disruption happen, we've also seen something else happen elsewhere which creates hope, which creates opportunities. I think one of the opportunities that lies ahead of you, that is there for you to latch on to, is to create huge opportunities in tier 2 towns in India. I may or may not be betting my money on the possibility of tier 2 actually disrupting the way you work in technology world, but I do believe very strongly that the Indian youngsters who are willing to latch onto this opportunity will be more than happy to work with you and to actually grow with you. The last thing I'll say from my side, I worked as a Minister for Technology for 10 years. I've seen several things in the last 10 years which kind of have been very, very disruptive. But the one disruptive thing that I've noticed, I've enjoyed doing is policy disruption. And governments in India are looking for that kind of policy disruption. What I would urge IT-Serve to do is please come to Indian governments, please come to Indian lawmakers and policymakers like us and give us ideas on what can be done to overcome this challenge. Because right now I think most governments in India are clueless what is likely to happen. Today one of my friends was discussing the possibility of upskilling our youngsters with the advent of AI. How can we actually ensure that people stay ahead of the curve, continue to remain skilled, continue to remain equipped with ideas and knowledge that will make sure that they don't lose their jobs in this competitive world. So one of the things we can do together as IT Serve and possibly lawmakers, governments back home is create a vision document on how we could possibly help our youngsters constantly upskill, constantly reskill, constantly stay ahead of the curve so that they actually don't fear what is ahead of them. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you for hosting us. I have fond memories of Dallas from 2015, 2022, fond memories of meeting with all of you. And I do look forward because I know for a fact that 2.5, 3 years from now, I'll be speaking again to you in Dallas as a Minister for Technology. And that's the sort of vote of confidence I like. And that's the sort of vote of confidence I like because I'm an optimist.